What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in regards to Battlefield 6, I think there is one thing that is really stressing people out, and that is the map designs. Of course, I think people are very happy when it comes down to the gunplay, the movement, just the overall feel of Battlefield 6, but off of what they played within the first beta. And also, let's not forget, going into the second beta as well, starting on Thursday, there's going to be another small map introduced. I think a lot of people are worried that this is all they're ever going to be able to go ahead and witness. But thankfully, the team over at DICE went ahead and in an interview discussed their thought process while pushing through with a lot of these maps. And I gotta be honest with you guys, this is some pretty good information. I think a lot of you guys are going to be pleased with this. As you can see right here from Battlefield Bulletin, in a recent interview with VGC, DICE design director Shashank Uchil claimed Battlefield 6's maps will include a wide variety of sizes and environments, and while some of them will suit certain playstyles better than others, there will be a role for players in every map. We want to make a map that suits every type of player. It could be infantry players, so we want to make sure we have good infantry maps, Empire State and St. Quarter. Maybe a player who likes tanks, vehicles. Okay, let's make a map that's good for infantry and tanks. Siege of Cairo and Iberian Offensive. You know what? I like helicopters. Let's make a map for that. New Sobek City and a Manhattan Bridge. And then the jets, which I'm really bad at, but there are players who are really good at jets. I don't know how they do it, but they're there. So let's make a map that caters to them as well. Operation Firestorm, Myrick Valley, and Liberation Peak. The team isn't interested in scale for the sake of it. Scale is not everything, right? Well, just because you have X kilometers doesn't mean it's going to be a good map. Because then if you make a really big map, you're going to fill it up with stuff. Then it becomes more of an open world, and then you start compromising on a bunch of stuff. On the other hand, DICE lead producer David Serlin said via Twitter that speed is a factor of map size, and they picked these 4 maps in the open beta to make sure they hit the full octane version of Battlefield on the head, and made everyone see they can handle that too. Large maps exist, and the tempo scales accordingly. You'll be able to see soon enough. But ladies and gentlemen, this is some pretty outstanding news right here because it confirms 2 different things for me personally. Firstly, it confirms that, again, in the beta, they are hyper-prioritizing these small maps. A lot of people going into the first beta, and also don't forget the second beta, since the second beta is going to have only small maps as well. I understand we're getting 1 additional map, but it is an infantry-styled map. So throughout both these betas, we're only seeing the smallest of the small, and people were worried, stressed, and again, I made a video about this previously saying, you know, they're doing this for a reason. They're not just putting these small maps in just to put them in, and this is all we got. You know, they're probably doing it for optimization, so on and so forth. But now we have a little bit more confirmation that they're doing it because I guess they want to showcase to the community that they're capable of doing such, which isn't a bad thing whatsoever. We've been through the trenches when it comes to map designs within the Battlefield franchise for years now. I mean, Battlefield 5, we went months without any new content, and the first DLC map that was introduced was a straight-up tank map. Battlefield 2042 had some of the most wide open landscapes you would ever witness, okay? Battlefield has been producing some really rough maps recently, and I think they wanted to prove to their overall audience that they are capable of making small styles of maps. Not saying that's going to be every map out there, but I mean, they've been getting critiqued for years now. And that's what shocks me the most about people being so stunned about small maps right now, because the community has been begging for this, right? For years and years and years. That's all I've been seeing from the Battlefield community, is that they want more, again, not infantry-only maps, but more urban combat, condensed combat, you know, and that's what these maps provide. Urban environments, tons of buildings, explosions everywhere, destruction all around, you know, clustered chaos in certain areas and combat zones. They wanted to prove to the overall community that they can indeed make a good map. And I don't blame them for doing such. And I'm glad that they are showcasing these to us because, again, they need to prove to this community that they know what they're doing. And, you know, they're not complete imbeciles when it comes to pushing out a quality product. And the second point I got out of this overall post is the fact that we are indeed getting larger maps. I understand people are stressed and worried, but that doesn't mean we are not getting variety when Battlefield 6 launches. I've stated it time and time and time again, but Battlefield 6 kind of feels like Battlefield 3 to me. And the reason I always say Battlefield 3 is better than Battlefield 4 for my personal preference is because it was way more infantry focused. Not saying vehicles were bad. Vehicles obviously still had a place, but you could tell that the infantry combat was prioritized. And that's exactly how I feel within Battlefield 6, even on some of the bigger maps like Peak, where, snipers are all out in the open and it's great for, vehicles like tanks to roll on up and get some crazy spawn traps. There's still multiple paths and routes that you could take as an infantry player to avoid all of that stuff and get into a lot of good combat. I've had amazing games on Peak, 40, 50, 60 plus kill games. And it's all because the maps were designed, I personally feel, with infantry in mind. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we're not only going to be seeing a bunch of small urban city maps. They made it very clear that when they went ahead and put maps together, they're prioritizing certain sections of the game, whether it's jet players, helicopter players, tank players, infantry players. And of course, we did see the it's not leaked, but you guys remember the little map list I showcased to you guys where it showed us all the maps we're getting at launch and what they're going to prioritize. And some of them said vehicle/infantry, vehicle/infantry, so on and so forth. But the developers are making it very clear that although they are split in between, while putting together these maps, they had certain players in mind. So no matter what you enjoy out of Battlefield, whatever you enjoy out of this franchise, you'll be able to get that within the overall experience. All I have to say is what I've been saying for days, weeks, months on end. Patience is key. I understand the situation that we're in, and I understand the lack of trust people have with DICE. But everything we have seen so far with Battlefield 6 has been so ridiculously solid. And of course, there's a wiggle room for failure. Of course, there's a wiggle room for things to go wrong. But personally, when it comes down to Battlefield 6, I'm kind of in a mindset, a mentality of they have to prove that they're going to do something incorrectly before I'm going to believe it. You know what I'm saying? Because they've already done so much here and put together such a solid experience. I don't see jumping the gun on the maps just yet. I believe that they put together a solid rotation of maps, and although we haven't seen the larger ones, I know that they are there. The devs have already confirmed it multiple different times, and now hearing this type of information, knowing that they are specifically putting maps together for jets, helicopters, tanks, so on and so forth, gives me hope that we will get that larger scale combat. And as David Serlin already said in that one post, I'll go ahead and read it again, but he said, large maps exist, and the tempo scales accordingly, meaning that people are stressed about how fast-paced Battlefield 6 is right now within the beta, but that's because of the maps that are at our disposal. When it comes to getting the larger maps, guess what? The tempo is going to scale to the size of those maps. It'll be a bit more paced. You won't have to worry about it being all clustered in singular areas. Things are going to change, but you got to give them a little bit of time to go ahead and present these maps to the overall community. And you know what? I got to go ahead and mention this as well while we're on this topic. They should have presented at least one to the community. I understand that, again, they want to prove to the community that they can make these style of maps. But they should have known that the Battlefield community would have been craving something a little bit larger as well. We have 4 maps throughout this beta, and pretty much all of them are, basically small. Peak being the largest one, which is, not too shabby. But I think that people in the community wanted to see just a little bit more of that type of variety. They could have done 2 and 2 of their smallest maps, and, one medium-ish and one large-ish, and they could have tested it across the board, and that might have been good for, trying to optimize everything as well. Because, yeah, it's great that they're optimizing all the small maps, and they're showing that this game can perform when it's at its craziest moments. But who knows what it's going to look like when we have, larger scale warfare going on here. Regardless, I think they should have definitely showcased some of these larger maps to us. Just a little bit more, because I think the community would have really liked that. And it would probably calm them down a bit in this current moment. The problems that we're going through right now would not be relevant if people could have tested out what they wanted to test out. But as I stated, patience is key. They're confirming again and again and again that they have larger maps, and these maps are indeed built around certain play styles. I think that waiting, just seeing how they actually turn out is the best bet at this current moment, because they have proved to me personally that they know how to at least make these urban style of maps. They have gained my trust in that department. let's see if they can keep on tugging here because they're already giving us a lot of positives. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, go down in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about this overall topic here. Do you think that DICE is going to produce some pretty good big maps, or do you think that they're just capping right now, lying to all of us? And in all reality, a lot of the maps are going to be looking like exactly what you're seeing here, just very tight urban combat with no larger maps that will benefit some tank players, jet players, helicopter players. But again, I'll be honest, I'm a Battlefield 3 lover. I love the infantry style of combat, and I think that they did a very phenomenal job at balancing out vehicle and infantry gameplay. And we just haven't had the chance to see the rest of the variety yet. On peak, as I stated, once I learned some of the routes, it was much better for me. And as I stated as well, vehicles were fun, and also infantry was fun. But now we have to see the rest of all the maps here, because Peak has some disadvantages with snipers and, just a lot of high ground that could be taken advantage of and can be kind of obnoxious. But we haven't seen the rest of the medium to large map rotation. I hope that they can continue with that vibe of allowing infantry players to have a really good time, but also allowing vehicle combat to be solid and in-depth when it comes down to how they have to go ahead and rotate the maps and having map knowledge as well. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post your daily at 8 morning Eastern time. Sometimes we even double upload at 5 p.m. Eastern time. You never know. So, of course, subscribe and hit that bell. We post Call of Duty, Battlefield, Splitgate 2, Ark Raiders. And last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, if you guys are interested, you want to hop into the open lobbies, I have a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.